I'd like to call the meeting of the Lord Selkirk West Kildonan Community Committee to order. I am Councillor Edie and I'll be your chairperson for today. Let me just start off with our land acknowledgement first. And we are meeting here on the home and traditional lands of the Anishinaabe, Innu, and Dakota peoples. And we are also here on the homeland of the Red River Métis, where we receive our water from Shoal Lake 40 in the Treaty 3 area. With us today, we also have Councillor Sharma from Old Kildonan, and Councillor Santos from Point Douglas will be joining us shortly. Now, with us from the public administration, sorry, I don't know everybody that's here, but we have Miss Semi Perez with us from Property and Development Planner. And we also have our senior clerk, Mr. Peter Prinsloo. Could you move the minutes of October 2nd, 2025, Councillor Sherman?
So moved.
All right, and all in favor? Nobody's opposed. It is carried. We'll move into delegations. Today we have Inspector Hall from Division 13 to report to us on how things are going in terms of crime and other related activities in our area. Mr. Hall, Inspector Hall.
Good morning, councillors. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Perfect. So I'll go through the usual statistics that I do, and then I'll just go through a couple more items for you, but I'll get started. So we had 3,675 dispatch calls for service, which is actually a little higher than normal. For whatever reason, in September and October, we're generally a little busier on the streets. And when it comes to crime, I'm not really sure why that is after 25 years of policing, but September and October tend to be our busiest months. Dispatch calls for service from our community support unit was 603. That's a 7% increase from September. Total divisional arrests for North District Station was 429. That's an 11% increase from September. And our year-to-date arrests are 3,275 on average. So as I said earlier, we were at 3,675. We had 400 more arrests on average for a 16% increase for the overall annual average. So October was a busy month. Although it was a busy month, I do have some good news at the end. But I'll go through a couple other items here. Our community engagements for the month were at 44 hours. Our SPATs, those are traffic units getting out of cars, walking, meeting with the community. We were at 150 hours, which is really good. Our traffic stops, we had 663 events for the month, totaling 120 hours. I can tell you over the last 3 or 4 months, we've had some of the highest ticket volumes we've seen in the North District in a long time. And that's simply because area residents, councillors, people are having traffic concerns. So our traffic units are going out and going into these areas, for example, school zones. Total traffic events, which involves pedestrians, motor vehicle accidents, etc., were 115, totaling 176 hours. Total proactive time spent in a community for our community support units and frontline officers was at 532 hours, which I think is pretty good. And just a couple other items here I just wanted to bring to the attention of the table. 71% of all of our calls in North District were considered urgent or emergency events, which is actually quite high. So going back to what I said before, September and October, for whatever reason, seem to be our busier months on the street, but 71% were considered urgent or emergency events. Here's the good news, or the optimistic news. After being here a year, I think what we're doing is potentially beginning to work. Our violent crime has gone down almost 4%. We're at 3.9% from last year, which is good. We've readdressed how we're attending calls since I came out here, and obviously our community commitment with a lot of the organizations and my relationship with some of the counselors here, I think is beginning to work. So I'm hoping by next year we can double that and be around 8 or 9% down for violent crime next year. But right now we're 4% down. So some optimistic news. But other than that, I'll take questions from city councilors if you have any.
Yes, thank you, Inspector Hall, and sounds like the service is working really hard. Councillor Sharma, any questions?
Just wanted to say we really appreciate, Inspector, you being at this committee monthly to give us updates. And in between, as you've alluded to, I think there's very good working relationships with councillors on this committee. I know that you've been very responsive when we've reached out to you. We've talked about a number of things in the last few months and do appreciate your time. Thank you.
No, appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, I have Councillor Santos.
Yeah, I'm here,
Oh, do you have any questions, Councillor?
but it's,
Go ahead.
I don't know if you can speak to it or not, but some of the, I guess,
You can
arrests.
find
that were
out if you
made-
ask.
Some of the arrests that had happened, recently with the arsons that had happened in the downtown. Are you able to provide any updates or speak to it at a very high level?
All I can really relate right now, just because it was turned over to the Major Crimes Unit, a male was arrested for a variety of the arsons that were going on in a downtown area, and I believe somewhere in the Main Street, William White area as well. One male was arrested, and I believe he is responsible for most of those incidents.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm just, so I noticed that's community support 44 hours over the 2 months, or?
Sorry, you're referencing which stat?
I think it was community support or community, whatever, 44 hours worth of service.
No, our community engagements were, up around 44 hours. That's right. Yeah. So our community support unit officers went into the community for an event. So if there was for example, a barbecue going on or a community event at a community hall, and the officers were asked to go there, we had 44 hours of those types of engagements.
Good. But we have community support officers who are out there who do just do sort of general policing service for our neighborhoods. Is that right?
Yeah, so our community support unit, they're really a flex unit. So within that community support unit, we have officers that'll walk the beat. So as I've said, we've committed foot patrol into the Point Douglas area, Main Street and Selkirk area, and William White. Those officers have been doing a really good job engaging with the community, going in and speaking with people. I've had a lot of reports coming back to my phone that people are happy. This is the first time in 7 years they've seen that kind of engagement. And then the other community support officers are doing a variety of things. So they're on the buses, they are in the community, doing whatever community events are required. We might be doing proactive work. I can tell you that we wrote and executed 2 search warrants. I believe both were in the William White area, and this was for community complaints involving drug trafficking and firearms offenses. So they went in and shut 2 drug houses down. As well, they'll do patrols, and then if calls are in a queue that should be directed towards community support officers, they will take those calls. So as I said, we took 673 calls out of the queue and attended to calls in the community.
Right. So I mean, it's kind of early, but I'm hearing from the William White Neighborhood Association, the new power line has led to a lot of good things. And so when you're showing up some of those stats, those would probably include things that are going through that power line and off to various service providers helping the community there. So, but I guess there's not a lot of numbers reflected yet in there from the power line.
I will always, what I'll do is I'll leave William White to, if they want to provide statistics on what they're doing, I'll leave it to them. Obviously, when people call police, we will never, like, I'll give a very vague statistic on it, but I'll never say, you know, Point Douglas provided this much information, William White provided this many calls to us, that type of thing. I can tell you the William White Power Line, they work very closely with our community support sergeant. So, you know, we've met with them on multiple occasions and just said, like, sometimes it's easier to call the community support sergeant directly if you have information. Other times they'll just provide, you know, vague or random information to us. So, you know, trying to give you an accurate stat probably wouldn't work because sometimes they will report just an anonymous, you know, a call to police, for example. But other times they will call directly to the community support sergeant.
I'm just gonna finish with, if you could deliver a thank you to your community support team out there in, well, really in not just William White, but around the whole area. They were instrumental in assisting St. Boniface Street Links in sort of calming down some encampments and assisting so that they could spend time trying to find homes for them. And without that community policing support, the service providers delivering encampment services, you know, it goes really well. So if you could thank your team for me, I'd really appreciate it.
Absolutely, I'll do that. Thank you very much for that.
Okay, thank you, Inspector.
Thank you.
Okay, next delegation is Mr. Pritzl.
Next, we have Amrit Manak to be heard with respect to plan approval of Fernbank Avenue, which is report 3. If you can grab a seat at the end there at the table, and we'll put 5 minutes on the clock for you.
And Mr. Chair, just to let you know, I do have a last minute delegate that I'd like to move a motion to allow them to speak when the time permits.
Yeah, when it comes up. Okay,
Yeah.
sure. All right.
How do
Sir,
I
are
connect-
you at the?
How do I connect the USB?
Oh, hi. Thank you. What is it?
5 minutes, yes. And he's going to connect the USB with the presentation.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you, Dale.
So once you're connected up with your presentation, you'll have 5 minutes to speak, sir, and you can put your name and on the record for us as well. Thank you.
No, we'll just start.
Are we ready, Mr. Chair?
I said, when he's got his USB in, his 5 minutes will start. He can put his name on the record to start.
Actually, I wanted to just ask a question if I could in the beginning. Mr. Bannock has been speaking with the public service and myself about possibly tweaking its parking. And it was just a conversation even as late as recent as this morning and also late last week. So I'm wondering just to give you a chance to do that.
Okay.
You wanted to tweak your parking. It looked okay, but I know we wanted to just run it by folks in zoning and make sure there's turning lanes and all that. Because you felt that parking would be a good idea to look at it. Also, be given the park across the street from your development, folks are gonna be driving to the park there, so there won't be a lot of on-street. So just to save time and to give you
Mhm.
your proper time to revise your project, what would you like to do today for them?
Would we be able to do a special meeting for this? Because I
That's
do have,
something we were gonna look
Yeah.
at, yes. So
Okay.
did you want a chance to further revise your?
yes, that's,
Then you would ask for an adjournment if you wanted?
yes, yeah, then, yeah.
Okay, Mr. Chair.
So that's for a different plan?
No, this plan approval that is on the agenda today,
Yeah, that's
the
good, right?
applicant wants to further tweak it. So asking for an adjournment.
Let me see.
That way,
Okay,
because
all
if we
right.
go through the plan.
We'll deal with it. Could you, yeah, anyway, he's gonna start his presentation. We'll start the question, and when we get to that report, we'll,
Okay, sure, we can do it that way. Yeah,
that would be
okay.
the way to do it, Counselor
But-
Sharma, yes.
But he can certainly ask for an adjournment at the onset as well. Mr. Clerk, is that correct?
That's
That's in order. So either way.
Okay.
Do you want to go through your current presentation or would you rather share the? It's up to you. You,
I can present
okay,
quickly. Yeah,
sure.
okay. We can
Whenever you're
start.
ready.
Okay, good morning, everyone. My name is Amit Manik, and I'm from Manik Homes. Okay, I'm here to do a brief presentation about the multifamily project that we're doing in the development in Highland Point. The subdivision is being developed by Ladco. If you look at our aerial footage, you can see our site marked in red. And then we have a park across, which is marked in yellow. So our site is located on Fernbank Avenue. So as you can see, the Highland Point is a mix of single family, multifamily, and duplexes, and they have a mix of commercial on McPhillips and the Ferrier entrance. So moving on to the site plan. So the main access from the property is through the Fernbank Avenue. This is a 45-unit multifamily townhouse development. So we have 6 different elevations for this. So we have divided it up into 6 different types. So they're type A and type B are facing the park, which is on the Fernbank Avenue. And then we have type C to F, which are going to be inside. So our main walkway is connected to the Fernbank. It's about 5 foot wide, which is separate from the driveway space. So our driveways are about 20 foot in depth. And our snow storage corner is located on the northeast corner. And then we have 2 garbage bin enclosures, which one is by the snow storage and the other one is by unit 43. And then we also have a bicycle stand by unit 43. And then we have 3 visitor parking spots right now. And 2 visitor spots are by unit 32. And then the other one is in front of unit 29. So moving on to our landscaping plan. So right now, it's a very nice landscaping plan, which exceeds the minimum requirement. So we have quite a bit of tree on the type A and type B elevations and shrubs and a lot of green space, which is visually appealing and it goes aesthetically with the park. So we have type A and type B elevations at the front. So which would be facing the park. So on the south elevations, on the top row, you'll see the front elevation. And on the rear, you're looking at the bottom, you're looking at the rear elevations. So our elevations, all of them are enhanced. So we have board and batten siding, we have lap siding, and we have culture stone. And then we have window trim around all of the windows to enhance the windows. And then we have decorative gable and brackets. So moving on to the type C and D elevations. So we have the exact same thing. We have enhanced the interior elevations exactly the same. So we have culture stone, lap siding, board and batten siding on these ones as well. And then lastly, we have type E and type F elevations. So these are the duplex elevations that we have. On the left, we have the garage ones, and on the right, we have the ones that are going to be with the on-site parking. That concludes my presentation. So if you have any questions,
Thank you.
please.
We asked any questions. You were already talking about some of it, Counselor
Yeah.
Sharma, but Yeah.
Sure. I do. Thank you for the presentation. I just wanted to go to the site plan slide.
Okay,
That's good that you're showing the breakdown of parking versus units. So there's 45 units.
yes,
Of those units, 41 units have a garage in the driveway.
exactly,
Okay.
yeah,
And then the additional 4 that don't have allocated parking spots somewhere else.
exactly.
How many do those additional 4 have for allocated parking?
So they have 1 each,
So that would be 4.
4, yes,
Okay. So they have 1 less than the other units.
exactly,
Okay.
yeah.
So they have 4. Okay, so that's good. and you don't have any visitor parking.
No, we do have visitor parking, so it's by unit 32.
Showing on this label, right, you have one visitor parking?
No, we have 3 visitor parking right
Okay, where are they?
now. It would be by the unit 32, in the blue.
You can point up there if you.
Oh,
or
I
just
can,
on
okay.
your Cursor is fine.
Okay, okay, it would be right here.
Yes, so you've got,
So I have 2 here,
yes,
and then I have 1 here.
yes, you've got. So that essentially almost makes up for those other 4 units to have 2 each.
Okay, yeah,
Exactly, like if we want to look at the math that way.
okay.
So in my experience in representing Amber Trails and other neighborhoods that were built a while ago and still continue to grow, parking is a big thing. Because, and we've talked about this, but I'll put it on the public record today. We have a diverse range of families that move into these places, but we do have a lot of ethnic diversity. With that brings multi-generational families and a need for more parking, I find. Because there's children that are driving, young adults, there's parents there, they've got their grandparents sometimes. There's a need for more than one car is what we're experiencing. So across from this property is a major parking area. Quite a large park, as you noted, and which is very nice for your development as well. I did visit there recently for some gatherings this summer. And not everyone can walk to these parks. So they are driving within their own community. And so the parking right in front, as you know, and you know about this, it's gonna be used for the park goers. Not all the time, but a lot of the time. And you were hoping to park, maybe have some spillover parking on Goodman, perhaps?
Then we can park on the street right here. And then we do have a little bit of extra space to park here as well.
Check that out with the department because there's turning radiuses, there's clearances for emergency vehicles.
Okay,
And similar development in Amber Trails, it is not allowed to park on the
street.
internal roadways.
okay.
So that's good. So you're pointing out to how many spots approximately? 3?
So we have about 4 spots that we put. Yeah.
And the one by the green block, that's an indented parking or is it in the internal roadway? You were pointing to a parking spot.
This one right here.
Is it an indented?
Yes.
Okay.
No, it would be on the
It's
street.
just on the roadway.
Yeah, it's on the
I'd
roadway.
like to, ask our planner about that as well, because my experience in every development is different, but the one off Pipeline, for example, there's no parking on the internal roadways
Okay.
because of emergency vehicles that need to come in and out. And snow clearing, et cetera. Okay, this is a good plan. You've been very thoughtful. You've been good to meet with. I know we met early on when you were planning this project. There is, Goodman Street is nearby, but again, we're finding that there's very little on-street parking because housing is not as wide as it used to be, right? And so my understanding is that you wouldn't mind looking at this and possibly revising for some more
Mhm.
parking spots.
Yeah, I
Is that
could do,
correct?
yeah, that's correct, yeah.
I'd like to propose that we give you the opportunity to do that. I will propose that later. And we will lay it over to the next meeting. I know your intention is you would like a special meeting, so you can stay with your timeline. There are some timelines behind your project that are real.
Okay, would you be able to give me an approval based on that we add more parking for this project? So,
Well, I think the intent is we want to hear about more parking, but a definitive approval today, no, not today. That's not how it works because whatever's on the record, it's, very precise as to how many.
It's on the
parking
record
spots. Yeah,
is enforceable.
That's right.
okay.
Okay, so good. Any questions you have for us?
No.
I'm just wondering can our planner answer that question now about the internal roadways? Do you know, or do you want to take it back and think about it?
I defer to fire and paramedics to confirm, but in every similar type of development I've worked with, there is not parking on the internal roadways for the same reasons you noted, for emergency services vehicles to pass through.
Okay,
Yeah,
Okay.
but it just depends on width and a lot of things. I don't think you have any more width than what we've seen before.
okay.
And in terms of the city, we're not gonna we could come enforce that for emergency vehicles, but you'll, as the developer, you will get complaints perhaps from people that live there. So ultimately it'll come on to somebody, but we'll look into that further. I thank you for the response to our planner there.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, good. Any further, sorry,
Well, I have
So
no
for the
questions.
special meeting,
Questions?
I can reach out to Simi for that.
The planner's always available and she's been very good. The whole team's been very good working with you, I understand, and
Yeah,
I'd like
yeah,
to have another
definitely.
conversation. Well, so are you asking for adjournment then to
Yes.
work on that, Mr. Chair?
Uh,
Mr. Clerk, what's in order there?
Yeah, when we get to that point in the agenda, we can certainly move a motion to have the matter
Right,
laid over.
but the
that's correct.
applicant's
We'll,
asking for.
we'll do that.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay,
Yep.
thank you. Very
All
good.
right.
And please, yes, we'll be reaching out and we know this is a priority for
Okay.
you and for us
Yeah.
to
Thank-
keep this moving.
Thank you for your presentation and we'll try to assist you to move it along as fast as possible. A special meeting can be held before our next community committee.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, sir. All right. We have a delegation on another plan approval.
That's right. Via Zoom, we have Evan Hansen from Affinity Architecture to be heard with respect to plan approval 2730 to 2750 King Edward Street. They also did submit a presentation, but it was after the deadline, so it was not added to the agenda.
So Councillor Sharma, you move to add his presentation to the record.
Yes, please.
All those in favor?
I.
Nobody's opposed. That is carried. Thank you.
Could you email me that just so I have it
Absolutely.
handy? Thank you.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning. We can hear you, sir.
Hey, should I start my presentation or does the public service have remarks before I start?
Would you like to have it displayed, Councillor Sharma?
He's just asking if
Our
public
council.
service has remarks, but no, I think they make their presentation first.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, just again, state your name and you have 5 minutes to make a presentation and I'm sure we'll have a number of questions for you, sir.
Okay, thanks very much. And also I appreciate you allowing me to share my presentation this morning. Thanks to the public service also for their work on this file. My name is Evan Hansen and I'm here to talk briefly about the proposed multifamily development at the corner of King Edward and Commercial Avenue. That's 2730 and 2750 King Edward. Can you see my screen now with the site plan?
Yes.
Okay, great. So we're proposing a 99 unit multifamily residential building, the 6-story apartment building, and it's located, as you can see, at the northwest corner of King Edward Street and Commercial Avenue. The building has surface parking with 149 parking stalls, which is a 1.5 to 1 parking stall to dwelling unit ratio. And it's got 18 bicycle parking stalls near the entrance here off King Edward. We do have a mixture of 1, 2, and 3 bedroom apartments in the building. And the building amenities that are located at the corner here, internal to the building, include an indoor pool, a gym, and a multi-purpose room. And in keeping with some of the zoning objectives for this site, we've pushed the building as close as zoning will allow to the corner of King Edward and Commercial, and we've tucked the parking stalls sort of behind and beside the building. I'll just flip to the landscape plan quickly. Sorry, that would be this one. So we've got landscape buffer here against where our parking is against existing low density single and double family housing to the west, with some trees to give a little bit of distance from the parking to the residential units at the west. And then throughout the site, we've got a variety of trees and shrubs that are meeting or exceeding the zoning requirements for landscape on the site, including within the parking lot here. And I'll just maybe show some of the perspectives of the building. So as you can see, we've got various colors of fiber cement siding on the building: dark gray, light gray, white, and wood look. This is the perspective, sort of a bird's eye view from the corner of King Edward and Commercial. This one is looking northwest. This is the view looking down Commercial Avenue to the northeast. And this is the view from within the parking lot, looking at the building from the north. So that's all the remarks I have today, but I'm happy to open it up to any questions you might have.
Questions, if I may?
Yep, go ahead.
Okay.
Have questions.
It's Evan, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Evan, hi, good to have you here. Thank you.
Thanks for having me, Councillor Sharma.
Is there anyone else making a presentation today from your group?
No, it's only me.
Okay, can you show us the aerial view in the area?
I don't have that slide right now.
Okay, maybe you can pull it up while we ask other questions.
Sure.
Because obviously we looked at the surrounding community when we were planning this development. Good, I see your 18 bike stalls, that's very good. In terms of parking, so you have no underground parking, it's just surface parking?
That's correct.
Okay. And you took out a basketball court idea on the pad site to make room for more parking?
That's right. Yeah, we had proposed at some point a half court of basketball in the northwest corner of the site, and unfortunately that compromised the parking count too much. So then we worked with the planner and the public service to reinstate those parking stalls.
Okay. What other amenities, I know what they are, but if you want to share them for the public record, the indoor amenities that you have?
Sure, I'd love to.
Do you have any concept drawings on that, or?
I'm going to pull up, I don't have any renderings, but I have some more detailed plans that my computer is having a little bit of trouble loading right now, but hopefully it will restore them shortly.
What are you planning inside?
We've got an indoor pool, a fitness area with some accessible change rooms in it, and then a multi-purpose room.
Very good.
Yeah.
How many stories are you here?
It's a 6-story building.
Right, very good.
So I
Okay.
can share the property map.
We don't see anything yet.
Yeah, I'm just working through some technical difficulties here, and I'll see if I can get that up for you.
You're familiar that there will be a school in this vicinity in the future?
Yeah, there's a school slated for the property across the street to the south, and there's also some active transportation pathways planned for the vicinity, including a pathway to some parks that are relatively nearby.
Right.
Sorry, I've lost. Can't even bring up the Zoom app here on my computer. Seems to be minimized. Oh, I think I found it. Sorry about this. Okay, so you should be seeing now the aerial view of the neighborhood. So our site is here at the northwest corner of King Edward and Commercial Avenue. So the building will be located, it's an L-shaped building here with the parking to the north and to the west. And so our landscape buffer is along these lower density multifamily residences here. I guess they appear to be duplexes. And so we've got an 8-foot landscape buffer and trees to separate them from the parking a little bit. The building is relatively far from those on the site. And then you can see some of the pathway infrastructure here that's happening in the neighborhood that leads to a playground, it looks like, or some sort of park here on Hazelton. And then you had also asked about the school, which I believe is slated for this area here.
Yes. So if you require spillover parking, do you think you do, and where would it go?
Well, our building is meeting the parking requirements of the zoning bylaw. If there was spillover parking, well, I know that there is a Gurdwara to the north, but there's no agreement in place for any shared parking there. So I'm not sure where the spillover parking might go.
So your point, Evan, about the zoning bylaw, we meet the zoning bylaw. That's wonderful. The zoning bylaw, it's a wonderful thing, but it's not reality at times. And so I'm happy, I guess it's too bad we took out the basketball amenity. But since the school is in the neighborhood right there, and they're likely going to have those type of amenities there for the community to use. So there's this zoning bylaw, and then there's what's reality in particular neighborhoods. And you know well that in these communities, there's a lot of intergenerational families. And that goes with multifamily as well. There's not one person typically living in these units. There's several. And it does draw families in. Is there any other, and there's school coming, the pickup, drop off, the parking for the school community students. There's a lot of competition for any little bit of on-street parking that there's going to be in the area. Is there any other opportunity to add more parking on the site? I know some have been added. Any other ideas?
On this site, I don't believe so. The site is fairly developed at this point.
Okay, and I want to encourage you as the architect to reach out to me prior for meetings. Because I'd like to review it with the architect. I don't see developers here today. So, and they're reaching out sometimes about little questions here and there, but it's not a full discussion.
I see.
I'm leaning on you for that fulsome discussion because you're the one at the table here ongoing at this committee. And so there's a lot of the similar conversations we've had on an ongoing basis. You want to keep that in mind and communicate that to your clients, that would be good.
Certainly, yeah. I was under the impression that the client was interfacing with you as this plan got developed, and we were dealing with Ms. Jerez a little bit, but in the future we'll ensure that all of the stakeholders, including yourself, are at the meeting so that we can have a more fulsome discussion about this.
Yes, thank you. There has been some conversations with my office, but as I said, it's a question about this or that. It's not the fulsome discussion because that's why they have you on board on their team to be the details behind the design. And that's why you're presenting here, and I don't see them here today.
Correct.
See them in the gallery, and I don't see them coming online as you stated. So when folks are interested they should see it through to the finish line. I think that's a good idea because that's what makes a good project. Tell me about any accessible units and wider doors and that whole undertaking.
Sure. So the building is accessible. The common areas will be accessible throughout. Maybe I'll just share a plan again of the building.
Sorry, you said the common rooms are accessible?
Yep, the common areas will be accessible. There will be one fully accessible washroom in the common areas as well.
What about the actual units?
The units themselves will each have a wider door at the entryway to allow anybody in a wheelchair with mobility difficulties to access the units. And then at least one bathroom in each of the units will have a wider door. So that will allow some flexibility for people with mobility challenges to use the bathrooms.
Would you
And
mind,
of course,
would you mind taking that back on your checklist? Because the last 2 times you've been here, we've had these same discussions, but I don't see it in the presentation. And we really want to be communicating for the counselors and for the public around accessibility. It's super important. So if you could take that back to your client and put it on your own internal checklist, I would appreciate it.
That's noted. Yes, I'll be certain to acknowledge the accessible features in the building in a future presentation.
What is the construction timeline?
I believe that the developer would like to start as soon as possible, as soon as the development permit and foundation permit are available. I think they'd like to be in the ground, and thereafter it'll be about a 12 to 16 month build.
So is it a spring start, like in April or May? Because they're not going to start in January. That will.
It most likely, well, I don't know what the plans are exactly, but I think they're eager to get started in December if possible. Certainly no later than the spring, but the earlier the better. So the advantage to not having a parkade here is that it's a little bit easier to start the construction in the cold season.
Right. Okay, very good. Thank you. And so again, I'll ask about the parking. There's not a lot of on-street parking. We're going to be spilling over into Councillor Santos's ward on the street. There's a school coming. We know students often bring cars to school. So there was no other opportunity for parking, to increase parking?
Looking at this site, I can see an opportunity to add 2 stalls potentially in this area if we were to close off the pass-through, but other than that, I don't think there's any other opportunity.
Can you point to the area again?
Yeah, if you can see my cursor here,
Yes.
it's currently intended as some drive-through access, but it's conceivable that people accessing these parking stalls here could go through this area in order to get back there. And so if we needed to add another 2 stalls here, we can do that.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that suggestion. Okay, nothing at this time. I'm just going to review my notes further, Mr. Chair.
You have any questions, Councilor?
No, I'm good.
This is across the street from your work.
Mhm.
All right, well, thank you very much for your presentation, and won't be long now, we'll be dealing with that plan approval coming up. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right.
Mr.
We
Chair.
have a delegation you'd
Yes.
like to suspend the rules to
Yes,
hear?
if I could suspend the rules to allow one additional delegation to hear with respect to the addendum report of waiver of development permit fees for 520 William Avenue. There's a bit of a clerical error on the address. I believe it's 520 Avenue. 520 William Avenue, yeah.
And we can also get a motion to add that to the agenda then.
Sure, I'll move, so first I'll move to suspend the rules to allow addendum report 8.
Okay, all those in favor?
I
Nobody's opposed?
move suspension of the rules to allow delegation to hear, to allow delegation to speak on the addendum report.
All right. And the report. All those in favor?
Aye.
Nobody's opposed. That is carried. And do we have the delegation in the audience or coming in by? Yeah.
Come on up. How do you say your name? Mehu?
It's Mehul, first
Mehul.
name, last name Patel.
Okay, this is which item?
Item number 8, waiver of development permit fees for 525. It should be 520.
So you have a presentation, sir?
I do.
Are you doing it via the USB or?
I'm just verbal comments.
Okay, then just state your name and you'll have 5 minutes to make your presentation.
Very good, thank you. So my name is Mehul Patel and I represent Unity Business Consulting. And we are the developer for a new multifamily building at 520 William on behalf of Living Gospel Church. And Living Gospel Church is across the street at 525 William Avenue. And so this new multifamily building is 29 units and it is the former location of the church, which was demolished in the summer. And so on behalf of the church, the plans are currently going through plan exam. So the 29 units are all affordable. And this project is also through the HAF program and other funding avenues. So on behalf of the church, we are asking the city to suspend the permit fees on this project which I currently sitting at $55,164. So, and a little bit of context on this building, as I stated, it's 29 units. They are all affordable. There are a number of accessible units in the building. There's 16. And so Living Gospel Church, to give some context, they sponsor new Canadians to the city. And so they do typical things in the community, such as where to bank, where to shop, schools, driver's licenses, those sorts of things. And so this building is aimed at helping new Canadians, typically coming to Winnipeg. And so the 29 units will likely house sort of that contingent. And so we are here as the developer asking the city if there is some consideration on the permit fees. That's my context.
You do have 2 more minutes, but is there any other thing you want to add? I'll ask questions if you're done your presentation.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Sarah, if I could ask a question?
Yep, cool.
Okay, so you had mentioned that, well, first of all, let's back up a little bit. I think Living Gospel has tried multiple years to redevelop their site.
Correct.
Go back maybe even when I first became a city
Right.
councilor back in 2018. So good to see this moving forward. William Avenue is continues to be, an underserved, high poverty neighborhood, and so
Correct.
really appreciate the investments that they're trying to do. You'd mentioned that you did receive some housing accelerator fund. When did
Correct.
that happen?
Correct. That happened likely earlier this year. I don't have the exact date. So it is a recipient of the HAF fund.
Approximately.
It was $1
how
million.
much? Pardon?
$1 million.
$1 million?
Yeah.
It's probably in the last year and a half.
It's about the year, yeah. roughly.
And then those funds, what are those funds gonna be
They'll
used
be
for?
the construction, obviously. And
Okay.
so the remaining balance of the construction, that's also going through typical funders, Mountain Housing, CMHC. So the entire project is,
Approximately how much?
it's about 7 million construction.
Okay.
So
And so why are you coming to ask, to reduce or to possibly, assist with the development fees or the permit fees? Like,
Right,
could
so-
you talk about the financial hardships, like?
yeah, so I mean, obviously this is a not-for-profit, and so any fees outside of construction, they either need to raise the funds or typically raise the funds. So the 55,000 would have to be raised. So on behalf of the church, we're here asking if the city would consider the reduction in the fee or a waive of the fee in light of, it's a not-for-profit, who they are, what they do in the community, and that context.
And then you're not applying for tax increment financing?
I don't believe so. No, that's not in this.
That's not in it? Okay. Okay, what are your timelines then for
The
construction?
Drawings are in plan exam right now.
Okay.
So we're hoping to, by Christmas, have them approved and start.
As early as next year?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Fantastic. That's really good. Thank you.
yeah, thank you.
Appreciate that. I don't have any other questions, Mr. Chair.
Okay, Councillor Sharma, any?
Yeah, thank you. Very good questions. I had some similar ones. Mr. Patel,
Yes.
what is your role with the project?
So I'm with Unity Business, and we've worked with Living Gospel in the past, their current building. And so they engaged us to obviously be the developer, help them sort of guide this process. So that's what our role is.
You've done multifamily housing like this before.
We have, yeah.
What project is your recent one?
So the most recent one would be, there's a project on Burnell Avenue. We just finished 106 units. 373 River, 1125 Pembina. We're a builder and a developer.
And the city already gave you quite a bit of funds.
Correct.
This was noted,
Correct.
and that was sort of, as my understanding, the city's support for housing projects.
Yes.
Is there a reason why you thought to apply for a waiver?
Well, again, it's all the costs need to be sourced. So if they're not sourced, either it's donations with the congregation or they have to fundraise.
Sure. There is,
So-
there's always new funding coming forward. For example, right now at the province, they've announced, tax credit program.
Right.
For nonprofit.
Okay.
I don't know if you are aware of that.
I think, we are.
So there's a lot of special, funding that's out there for housing. And so I'll, hear from my area councillor and others, but, this is sort of above and beyond what we're already providing, but I
Sure.
appreciate the ask.
Okay,
Thank you for the work you're doing.
thank you.
Great. Thank you. There's no more questions and.
Oh, yeah,
oh.
just to, you had mentioned that the project is approximately $7 million in capital. How much of it is private? The congregation had, do you know
I
the percentage?
don't know that. I can get that to you.
Yeah,
yeah.
okay. Sounds good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
We'll deal with the addendum report, in its turn. All right, that's it for delegations.
That's right.
Mr. Prinsloo, okay, so we're gonna move into, reports. I'm just checking the time here. Well, it's 10:30 already. I guess we'll be getting into the reports after the hearing then. I'd like to take a break. We have a hearing that's scheduled for 10:30, so. So we're gonna take a up to 10-minute break, no later, and we'll be back to call it to order. I'd like to call the meeting of the Lord Selkirk West Kildonan Community Committee back to order on Monday, the 24th of November, 2025. For the purposes of a hearing, I'll restate, we are meeting here on the home and traditional lands of the Anishinaabe, Innu, Dakota people, and the homeland of the Red River Métis, where we receive our water from Shoal Lake 40 First Nation in the Treaty 3 area. My name is Ross Eady. I'll be your chair for today. I'm the city councillor from the Mynarski ward. And my colleagues today are Councillor Santos from the Point Douglas ward and Councillor Sharma from the Old Kildonan ward. We also today from our public administration, we have Ms. Simi Jerez, planner, who will be speaking and pointing out items within the hearings that were here today. We also have with us our senior clerk, Mr. Peter Prinsloo. And I believe Mr. Prinsloo would like to take over the show.
Thank you, Mr. Chairperson. In accordance with the City of Winnipeg Charter and the Development Procedures Bylaw, the process the committee will follow is the applicant will be heard first, followed by those in support of the application. Next, those registered in opposition are heard, followed by those registered for information. Finally, the applicant may return to speak in rebuttal to comments made. However, no new information is permitted. Please note that when your name is called, it is your opportunity to speak. However, you are not obligated to do so. For a more in-depth overview of the public hearing process and other information pertaining to what happens before, during, and after a public hearing, please consult the City Clerk's Department website. Please note that all public hearings are recorded and will be part of the public record. Should you have any questions after the hearings have concluded, please contact the City Clerk's Department. Item 1 is a rezoning at 1565 Inkster Boulevard under file DAZ 216/2025. And in accordance with the City of Winnipeg Charter and the Development Procedures Bylaw, this is a combined hearing and the following item will also be heard at the same time, namely, item 2 is a variance at 1565 Inkster Boulevard under file DAV 191326/2025D. Please note that communications were received in support of this matter, which have been distributed to all members of the committee. And if it's the will of the committee, we'll hand it over to the public service to give us an overview.
Thank you. This site is on the north side of Inkster Boulevard, directly across from Hutchings Street in the Inkster Industrial Park of the Point Douglas Ward. The application is for consolidation and rezoning from an M2 manufacturing general district to an M1 manufacturing light district. To bring the existing use, a Habitat for Humanity retail use in conjunction with their warehouse into alignment with the Winnipeg zoning bylaw. The property is about 1.6 acres in area with 170 feet of frontage on Inkster Boulevard. As mentioned, it's occupied by an existing industrial warehouse with an accessory parking area and related works. This site was previously approved in 2019 for a rezoning to M1 and submitted for the same purpose for Habitat for Humanity. However, the approval lapsed prior to completion of the rezoning. And so the same application is before us. So the applicant intends to maintain that existing one-story industrial warehouse and retail space, as well as a one-story vinyl concept for warehousing and retail use of home building supplies and related items. Habitat for Humanity refers to this as a restore. The restore would receive new and used building materials donated by manufacturers and retailers, contractors and homeowners. And the supplies would be resold to the general public at reduced prices. The difference with this application is related to the variances. There's just one variance to maintain the existing retail use while the rezoning is in process. Under the previous application, there was also a variance requested for a gravel surface parking area. However, plans are to pave the parking area with this go round. Small details, the plans provided show the accessory parking area as paved with 26 standard parking stalls, 7 small car parking stalls, 3 parallel parking stalls, and 2 accessible parking stalls, 1 van accessible stall with loading, as well as a loading stall and 4 bike parking spaces. The site plan shows a chain link fence along the east and west property lines, as well as fence within the rear property line with a landscape buffer between the fence and the rear property line. And the landscape buffer includes 6 skybound white cedar trees for buffering from the residential uses there. And there's the addition of street edge landscaping, so some site improvements are proposed. We have recommended approval and do see this as a nice transition between other industrial uses in the area and the residential properties to the north.
Thank you. Questions?
Yeah, I do. Just to follow up on the buffer, what's the, I guess the width or the depth? Is it 20, like how many feet from the residential property line to?
There's some empty space there from an old railroad.
I don't know what it was. It looks consistent along the rear of the other property, so that could be it. In terms of the actual dimension. It looks like it is about 18, it appears to be between 16 to 20 feet. It's not dimensioned on this site plan.
And then, okay, so you mentioned that back in 2019, it does sound familiar now. They had rezoned 2019 and then it's now lapsed and so they're replying. So you're saying there's been no changes to the site since the 2019 application? It's exactly the same application?
That's my understanding that the site will be paved and additional landscaping will be implemented, but nothing at this point.
Okay.
I defer to the applicant to confirm that.
Okay, and then there is a building in the back. I'm just looking at the iView photo that you have on.
That's a vinyl concept, so it's not meant to be a permanent structure.
Okay.
So that's for additional storage, outside storage.
Okay. Okay.
Mrs. Durham, any questions?
No, just the same question. Nothing's changed. This did come forward. It's Restore's operating very well there. It's well received in the community and beyond. So this is just a continuation of what they originally asked for, correct?
Mr. Prinsloo.
All right, we'll call up the applicant, Lauren Sheedy. If you can grab a seat, and accompanying Lauren is Brennan Johnson.
And Johnson.
When they appear together, they get 5 minutes in total. Yeah,
So you just present your names again when you get to the front of the table there, and you'll have 5 minutes to make a presentation. And I'm sure we'll have some questions for you afterwards.
Morning, counselors, clerks, and administration. My name is Lauren Sheedy, and I'm a planner at Landmark Planning and Design. I'm joined here today by Brendan Johnson, my colleague, and if it is amenable to the committee, we'd like to request to combine our time to give a more thorough presentation. Great. Thank you for the opportunity to present this proposal for a rezoning at 1565 Inkster Boulevard. I'll note that this application is a formality to bring the site into zoning compliance. We're not proposing any new or different uses on the site or proposing to alter the buildings. So we have more information on this in the presentation. So Landmark Planning and Design was retained by the property owner and landlord to lead the planning and development approvals process for this site. The site is located at 1565 Inkster Boulevard and is approximately 1.6 acres in area. The site is bordered on the north by single-family homes on Madrill Close. The eastern boundary is an industrial warehouse use zoned M2. The southern boundary is Inkster Boulevard, and the site is bounded on the west by the Maples Evangelical Church. Located on the subject site is a Habitat for Humanity restore classified as a warehouse and ancillary retail operation. And this application is seeking to rezone the site from M2 to M1 to align with the existing use of the site and accommodate the retail operation, as retail uses are not permitted in the M2 zone. In addition to the rezoning, we would also require a temporary use variance to allow the retail use to continue operating until the property is rezoned. And as mentioned previously, there are no new works or building alterations proposed. For some context on the project, an application to rezone the site to M1 was previously approved by the LSWK Community Committee in 2019. But because the approving bylaw was not registered prior to its expiration, a new application and public hearing is required. In 2019, at the initial public hearing, the committee imposed a condition for an accessory parking area to be paved prior to June 30th, 2021, and this condition has been met. The proposed M1 zoning aligns with the existing context and character of the Inkster Industrial Park neighborhood. So the property bordering the subject site to the west is zoned M1, and then in addition, rezoning the site from M2 to M1 would lessen the potential for land use conflicts between the residential properties to the north of the site and the subject site by lowering the intensity of uses permitted on the subject site. The existing warehouse and ancillary retail operation includes the following. So there is a one-story building, as well as an accessory parking area with all required parking, including accessible and van accessible parking requirements. There's also a one-story vinyl Quonset, which is located to the north of the existing one-story building. There is a chain link fence along the northwest and east property lines. And the street edge and building foundation landscaping on site includes 34 green mountain boxwood, 6 purple lilac, 5 skybound white cedar, and 1 lodgepole pine. The site plan illustrates the existing components of the site that I had previously mentioned. So the parking lot is located on the west side of the existing building, and there's also a pedestrian connection along the southwest corner of the site that connects the parking lot to the public sidewalk along Inkster Boulevard. A 6-foot fence and landscaping provides a buffer on the north property line abutting the single-family homes. And the street edge and building foundation landscaping that fronts Inkster Boulevard works to visually enhance the site. The existing structures on site comply with the dimensional standards of the M1 zoning district. In order to allow the Habitat for Humanity Restore to continue operating until the property is rezoned, we are requesting a temporary variance of 2 years. It is our opinion that the requested variance is consistent with Plan Winnipeg, does not create a substantial adverse effect on the amenities, use, safety, and convenience of adjoining properties, is the minimum modification of a zoning bylaw required to relieve the injurious effect of the zoning bylaw on the applicant's property, and it's compatible with the area in which the property to be affected is situated.
You're almost done, right?
Yeah.
Okay, 2-minute extension, all those in favor, nobody's opposed, that's carried.
Our Winnipeg 2045 and Complete Communities 2.0 have policies and language that is supportive of ancillary retail uses in industrial areas. And in summary, we feel that the warehouse and ancillary retail operation is complementary to the Inkster Industrial Park neighborhood. The development is consistent with policies and objectives of our Winnipeg 2045 and Complete Communities 2.0. The proposed M1 zoning aligns with the character and context of the Inkster Industrial Park neighborhood and would lessen the potential for land use conflicts to the residential properties immediately north. And finally, the requested variance meets the criteria for approval as outlined in the City of Winnipeg Charter.
Could you just explain the variance thing a little bit more?
So the temporary use variance is required because the retail component of the Habitat for Humanity Restore is not currently permitted in M2. So until a rezoning is passed and that bylaw is adopted for the property to be zoned M1, a temporary use variance would allow it to continue operating until that time.
That's the mean, okay, I get it, okay. Questions, colleague, Councillor Santos?
Yeah, I'm just looking at the variance. I believe it says 5 years to allow.
So my understanding of temporary use variances is the maximum amount of time that you can apply for it is 5 years. We are requesting specifically 2, that timing should be sufficient.
Okay. I don't have any, and you said the parking lot has been now paved?
Yes, yeah, that condition was met already. They were working towards having the property rezoned, but just the timing for getting everything registered lapsed, and that's why this application is required.
Good.
Councillor Sharma,
I'm good, thank you.
you're good? Okay, then there's no more questions. Thank you for the presentation. Thank you for moving to bring it more into compliance along Inkster. A lot of people already utilize that space, so much appreciated from Habitat. You'll be able to come back up and speak rebuttal if you hear anything you'd like to speak to, but you won't be able to introduce any new information. So thank you. Do we have any more delegations
I have
in support?
I have no other persons registered either in support, opposition, or for information, and there's no one else in the gallery, Mr. Chair.
Okay, so then we can entertain questions to our planner, Ms. Rez. Any questions, colleagues?
So I prefer to move motions, but I don't have any questions.
Everything's good? Everything's good. Okay. All right, then, I don't see any purpose for you coming up in rebuttal. Again, we appreciate bringing more into compliance along there, and Habitat doesn't supply important services to Winnipeggers. So,
I feel like you're taking my speech away, Councillor Eady. I concur. You want to move a motion on my behalf? I'm just teasing.
that's all yours.
I move that the report of the Winnipeg Public Service be taken as read.
All those in favor? Nobody's opposed, that's carried.
That receipt of the public representations be concluded.
All those in favor?
I
Nobody's opposed, that is carried.
move that the recommendation of the Winnipeg Public Service be concurred in and forwarded to the Standing Policy Committee on Property and Development. Is that right?
Yep.
Yeah. I don't need to do the via the.
Yeah.
I do that,
Yep.
the executive policy committee via that priority rezoning process. Supporting reasons, just like what my counselor colleague had said, thank you to Habitat Restore for providing such a great amenity for the city of Winnipeg. I do remember this, application, we supported it back in 2019, and of course, this is just a bit of a cleanup of it, so I don't have any other comments other than that.
Okay.
It's simple.
Any comments, Councillor Sherman? Nope.
Already
Okay,
made them, thank you.
I'll call the question then. All those in favor?
Aye.
Nobody's opposed. That is carried.
Okay, I move that the public hearing with respect to this application be concluded. Okay.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Nobody's opposed. That is carried.
Variance. Do you want to read that first?
Sure.
Okay.
Please note that the committee has made a recommendation on this matter that will now proceed to council. No further representations are permitted on zoning. All persons registered for the public hearing will receive notice when the matter is to be considered by council.
Okay, moving on to the variance, I move that the report of the Winnipeg Public Service be taken as read.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Nobody's opposed. That's carried.
I move that the receipt of the public representations be concluded.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Nobody's opposed. That's carried.
I move that in accordance with subsection 247 sub 3 of the City of Winnipeg Charter, the variance is consistent with Plan Winnipeg and any applicable secondary plans, does not create a substantial adverse effect on the amenities, use, safety, and convenience of the adjoining property and adjacent area, which, including an area separated from the property by a street or waterway, is a minimum modification of a zoning bylaw required to relieve the injurious effect of the zoning bylaw on the applicant's property and is compatible with the area in which the property to be affected is situated. My supporting reasons are similar to the rezoning of the property.
All those in favor? Nobody's opposed. That's carried.
I move that the recommendation of the Winnipeg Public Service be concurred in and the variance be approved.
All those in favor? Nobody's opposed. That is carried.
And I move that the public hearing with respect to this application be concluded.
All those in favor? Nobody's opposed. That is carried. Mr. Prinsley.
Please note that the committee's decision with respect to this application may be appealed. If you wish to appeal, information on how to do so will be included in the order issued, which will be mailed to all persons registered. That concludes our public hearings.
Thank you. So, yes, do we want to take a break or we'll go right into our reports? Yeah, we'll go right into our reports. If you just give me one quick moment here. Just gonna pull that up. All right, so we have report number 1, which is the appointment of members to the library advisory committee for the Lord Selkirk West Kildonan Community Committee area, where we have growing libraries.
Yeah. Do we have any appointments?
There's a number of vacancies, but there was only 2 applicants.
Okay, and that's for the 2-year term?
The committee can decide to either give them the balance of the 2-year term that expires December 31st, 2026, or give them a new term that expires a year later in 2027.
Are these people new or newer?
That I don't know.
Mr. Chair, before we get into that, I just wanted to note, you said growing libraries, and I agree, it's very exciting. There'll be a new library in Northwest Winnipeg as we grow. And I say this because it's important to put information on the public record, because sometimes misinformation, just as of last week, was floating around social media saying that, we wanted to close the West Kildonan Library. And you and I in particular worked very hard along with council colleagues to ensure that wasn't happening. And so the West Kildonan Library remains, and there's an open house this Wednesday evening from 4 to 7 p.m. to look at design for the new library to serve Northwest Winnipeg, the growth. And so I encourage everyone to look online for the details. It's 4 to 7 p.m. at the shopping center, Center Court, and to look at the design and give feedback. And the West Kildonan Library remains intact.
It
It's
does.
interesting, the information that floats around social media at times, it just,
Isn't it crazy? I know.
frustrating and surprising. So whenever we can, we want to put the correct information out there.
That's right. We do that. And into the future, we'll be looking, once we have our new library for all that new, large number of new population out in Old Kildonan. We continue the plan approvals in the area and stuff, so it's quite clear that we needed a new library there. And we just have to look into the future to fund the major renovation of the existing West Kildonan Library, but not until we're finished the Old Kildonan Library. So anyway, so you're moving the appointment of the two applications for.
I'm
Yes.
gonna read over
So
your shoulder here.
This individual is currently on the board. Their term expires at the end of this year. This individual is a brand new applicant.
For the balance of the 2-year term expiring 2026, but she's reapplying?
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah,
okay.
because her term expires December 31st this year.
Okay, so you might as well give her, yeah, so let's do that. Let's put both of them for the new 2-year term expiring on December 31st, 2027. That's fine. Samantha Ott and Udavir Singh Manshahaya. Okay, I'll move
Yep.
that. Thank you.
Right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Nobody's opposed, that is carried. If you could move on my behalf, Counselor Sharma, I'd like to move, we have 4 2-year positions to end on December 31st, 2027. And if you could move a motion to have the following 4 individuals fill those spots. Manpreet Kaur, Ian Stewart, Jaspreet Singh, Crystal High. So moved by Councillor Sharma, thank you.
So
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Nobody's opposed. This is a recommendation that goes on to council, I believe, Mr. Princeton.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. Report number 3, is that a plan? What's report 3, people?
Fernbank Avenue.
Oh, there. Miss Perez. This
this is item 3, the plan approval for Fernbank. This is one that was requested adjournment.
Yes.
Oh, this one, okay, well then, you don't need to go into it.
So we'd like to request the adjournment, we heard from the delegation for till the next meeting. And if we have a special meeting, that'll be brought forward. I think that's the goal. If my colleagues can work with me on that. Okay, so next meeting. And Madam Planner, you will be collaborating with them. They'll be reaching out to you. Correct. Okay, thank you. That was good discussion, though. I'm glad it was put on the public record this morning. And the willingness to look at additional parking.
Yes. Thanks for bringing that to our attention, Councilor Trump. All right, all those in favor? Nobody's opposed, that is carried. Report number 4 is,
Plan approval at 2730 and 2750 King Edward Street.
yes, okay.
And updated so that it says Kildonan.
Yes, it'll say.
You want, this one isn't being adjourned, right?
Yeah, there, I would like to, I'll hear from the public service, but I'd like to lay it over because there was an indication of additional parking that could work. We heard from the architect. So I
Right.
don't know that on the fly, we're gonna look at that, but I would like to, if you'd like to share your summary.
Oh, sure thing. So for King Edward, this is a plan approval application for a 6-story, 99-unit multifamily residential building. The site is at the northwest corner of King Edward Street and Commercial Avenue. It was consolidated and rezoned in November 2021. The proposed building would be 68 feet in height. It's configured in an L shape along both Commercial Drive, which is the front yard, and King Edward Street, which is the east corner side yard. So along those street edges with parking located behind. The proposed building would provide a mix of 2-bedroom and 3-bedroom units and amenities for residents, including a multi-purpose room, a gym, and an indoor pool. The cladding materials consist of fiber cement lap siding in white, light gray, dark gray, and a wood look with glass balcony panels. Site access would be taken from approaches on Commercial Drive and King Edward Street. There are a total of 149 parking stalls proposed. As mentioned, they'd be located behind and along the north side of the proposed building. This is a 1 unit to 1.5 parking space ratio, including 3 standard accessible parking stalls, 2 van accessible spaces, and 44 small car parking spaces, which is within what's permitted under the zoning bylaw. And the applicant is also proposing to provide a total of 18 bike parking spaces on the site. Bike racks are shown beside the pathway to the King Edward Street entrance, abutting the future public sidewalk. A garbage enclosure is located in the area near the north property line, not abutting any residential uses. It's on the north side, there's a temple, a place of worship located there with quite a setback to the existing building. So we don't expect that would be a nuisance. A 6-foot high wood fence and an 8-foot deep landscape buffer proposed along the west property line, and that abuts residential uses, existing residential uses. The landscape plan shows a variety of 5 types of trees and 8 types of shrubs. I won't get into heavy detail there with what that is. And we've recommended approval of the plans proposed.
Questions?
So what are the initial thoughts on the additional parking that was suggested? It's through the drive aisle, so I think it needs to be looked at closely. It's not a decision I'm willing to make today. There was a drive aisle that was indicated by the architect that 2 additional stalls could be put there. But then we need to look closely at the traffic flow. Any thoughts on that?
I think that we would have to look a bit more closely. That was the first time I'd seen that suggestion. My only concern is possible congestion or bottleneck at the one space that traffic on for those north side stalls, or pardon me, west side stalls, would be able to move through to get to the Commercial Drive access. But it could be adequate. That would add, I believe he said 2 stalls, possibly 3.
Yes, so I think that could be looked at offline and then come back in the near future. I also want to underscore, have this committee on the public record, and I know Madam Planner, you and I have had these conversations, which is good. But just, it's good to hear it once again. We want people using active transportation, absolutely. We want people using transit, but folks are also using vehicles. And in this particular case, there's a school nearby. There will be a big competition for on-street parking. A few other applications we heard today. So I want to underscore how important it is to look at the parking element, because there is zoning bylaw and there's reality. And we are, in some cases, in the Amber Gates area, there's a lot of development. And textbook, it looks wonderful, but what works in reality? So I want that lens on things going into the future as we have been. And I think it's good to put it out there for the public record and for us to hear need to zero in on the parking requirements, because we have certain demographic, multi-generational families utilizing the spaces as their homes. And with that comes more people, more need to for transportation, various options. So I really want to underscore that we've got to focus on that when we're looking at these applications, and accessibility. And I keep saying it over and over, and I'm disappointed at times when certain folks come forward, architects and consultants, and we've heard it once, we've heard it twice, 3 or 4 times. It's a requirement, it's a need. The public and the elected officials are interested in these topics. So I want to see results when we're looking at plans that we approve. I want to have good decision-making here around these topics. So I'd like to move layover to the next meeting, or a sooner meeting if we do have a special meeting.
Okay. All those in favor? Nobody's opposed. That is carried. Report number 5, a non-conforming approach on 958 Alfred Avenue.
Yeah, this is something I've never seen before, but if I can hear from someone.
Oh, pardon me, yes.
Yeah.
There is a back lane
There is a
behind
back
you?
lane. There is a back lane.
Okay,
So, the applicant was concerned about safety and going to his vehicle, which is accessed off the lane and has requested a frontage for that reason. Unfortunately, it's where there is a lane, introducing an approach is problematic.
Mhm.
I'm sorry, I did have my notes ready for this, here we go. So with this, complete communities does have language around vehicular access being taken from the lane in order to reduce potential conflict with pedestrians, and there is a sidewalk here. Between pedestrians using the sidewalks and motor vehicles crossing the public right of way. Also preserving green space and protecting existing trees, and preventing fragmentation of the boulevard for on-street motor vehicle parking and snow clearing. And in this case, there is language there also saying, except in situations where access is not possible, lots that back onto a rear lane should take access from the lane. And so the context here is there are almost no examples of established front approaches in this neighborhood. And all properties on this block are taking access from the lane. It would be, the proposed approach is shown to be constructed adjacent to one established public boulevard tree. So that could have an impact on the well-being of that tree. The plans do illustrate that the proposed approach would meet the requirement of 2 meter separation to the public boulevard tree, but in the past, there has been some concern from urban forestry about the well-being of the trees, of larger trees. So the impact of excavation and alteration of permeable surfaces could impact the long-term tree health. So we're not supportive, the public service is not supportive of the proposed approach.
sorry, this approach is being requested by somebody
By the homeowner.
has a disability?
It's not a disability, he is, from what I understand, it's an older individual who would feel safer accessing parking from the front.
Yeah, I read the letter of intent. I'm a senior living alone, during the last year, been mugged 2 times in the back lane. I've become very afraid of leaving or entering my home through the back entrance. Avoid going in and out during the dark. In the past, I've missed doctor's appointment due to snow and ice buildup in my bike lane and not being able to make it out in time. So I beg your department to please consider my proposal for a front driveway so that I can have some safety and a little more freedom of getting in and out of my home. Yeah, this is a bit challenging because, like you mentioned, there is back lanes. Is it an older back lane? Concrete,
Appears to be in good condition.
concrete older back lane.
Doesn't matter, it's a back lane.
Yeah, and
It's not like Alfred in my area where there's no back lanes, they do have front approaches.
I do see one on Burroughs Avenue.
Girls has front approaches where
Yeah.
there's no back lane.
And where's the parking? The parking is on the other side, right?
It is on the
The
other side of the street, right? So it wouldn't reduce the number of parking spaces.
And then I see the plans here. Proposing to do a 10 feet by 9 feet wide by 55-foot driveway. What's the driveway approach rules? I know there's like standards like of the width of your driveway approach, like for the width. Do you happen to know that? Like are they
Like with the flares?
Mhm.
I don't know. So I know Public Works, when they circulated this to us, didn't mention anything about if that part conforms or not. It wasn't flagged.
Right.
So, and I don't see it wasn't evident in their report either.
Yeah, I'm not too keen on adding a front driveway approach on Alfred Avenue. I understand the security and safety concerns and the snow plowing concerns. Those are definitely challenging ones, but I am really worried about setting a precedent at this time.
There's not very many other.
No, not on any other street, like on Aberdeen or, yeah.
Just gonna, if you did move a motion to allow it, I cannot support it because what's stated here could be stated probably by 1,000 people who live in the north end, okay? It's unfortunate that people feel insecure about the safety around their homes, but I don't, anyway, I think it sets a dangerous precedence and it can cause lots of problems, especially for like the pedestrian thing. Often some of these driveways, they get in there. I got an example on Eakins where there's a driveway that crosses. Well, the vehicle's always blocking the sidewalk when it's parked. So like, you know, who knows how many cars will move up into that approach. And I just,
Yeah, no, I think your concerns are valid, and so, you know, I'll move that the application not be approved at this time.
all those in favor? Nobody's opposed, that is carried.
And I need some supporting reasons for this one.
Just stated it, we don't want to set a precedence, that the purpose.
Severe.
At the precedent.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on. Item 6 is a extension of time on the subdivision, of 2530. Oh, we just heard the plan approval. King Edward. Listen,
This is also should be marked as Old Kildonan. It's marked as Point Douglas.
Mhm.
And so I'll move that we approve the extension.
Okay.
Obviously, we need it.
yeah, all those in favor?
Aye.
Nobody's opposed, that is carried. Report item 7 is another request for extension of time on the northwest corner of Inkster Boulevard and King Edward Street. Lots of complications there, Councillor Sharma and Councillors.
This is the Habitat one, right?
No,
Oh, this is
Oh,
the,
pardon me. This is the other one, yes.
there's complications working out traffic flow and everything there, right? Yeah, okay. It's Old Kildonan, northwest corner, but
Inkster, King Edward, you're this corner.
I'll look at it.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's fine, Peter, thank you. Yes, I'll
Thank you.
move extension.
yes, it is in Councillor Sharma's.
Yeah.
All those in favor? Nobody's opposed, that is carried. Addendum report 8. Waiver of development permit fees for 525 William Avenue.
The address should note 520 William Avenue. The applicant lives at, I think, at 525, but that's fine. Yeah, so I'd had the Living Gospel Church, as we heard from the delegation, reach out to my office a while ago, looking for ways to support their application. They're a nonprofit charity. I had worked with them in the past with Phil Delott on the Living Gospel Church at expanding several years ago. And, you know, financing is always a challenge. We've heard from the property or the developer that they're looking to provide some supportive housing. Looks like it's can even be even more affordable, like rent geared to housing. And so, of course, to ensure that it remains very low for rent, you know, the cost of building, we want to make sure is also low. And so I said the only way that we could support opportunities like this is either waiving development fees, application fees, you know, TIF financing. We've heard from them that they are getting some government subsidy, which is fantastic. But I think there's some more opportunities to provide them with more support. I think originally it was $75,000. That seems pretty high. It looks like he's coming in at 51,000. So it could be less than 75.
What precedent is there for support like this?
I've done this one before for another property in my ward at, the Burton Cummings. Kathy Cox had come forward with a senior housing on an empty parking lot that was like through John Prasansky and Kathy Collins. I waived a development feedback then a couple of years ago, and now they're up and going and actually almost finished.
What about the
Yeah.
fact that we?
Just to be clear though on that, just to be clear, this fee waiver, this has to go to P and D,
Correct.
who has the authority
To
to
do it,
waive
yeah,
it. We're recommending it.
Correct.
At this
What
point.
about the fact that we now have half funding, and maybe that wasn't the case before? You know, so this is sort of stacking current funding. Yeah, asks, right? Like there's already programming out there through the half fund, and now it's
Yeah,
providing additional funds, right?
I'm just wondering though, okay, I'm not sure if Ms. Perez knows or not, but I thought there was something in the half changes that were made to our bylaws and other things, that there was an opportunity to waive fees for these multifamily buildings. Are you familiar with that?
I remember seeing something, but I'm not familiar. If it is the will of the committee, if you're considering a special meeting, you could lay over this request and we could look into that further.
We can ask those
we-
questions at PP.
We could let P and D deal with
in detail with it. Those are good. That's a good question, Counselor Edie. I'm not too aware of that.
There were some provisions, but I can't
Yeah.
remember what they were. Great, so you're moving this ahead? Okay.
Yeah, I'd like to move it ahead. I mean, I'm not gonna I completely understand, Counselor Sharma's comments. Those are very, very valid.
Questions, you know, I'm posing, because we recently had through the half funding that went out, it was undersubscribed, we heard. And I'm not seeing any support in my area where we're having so much growth. There's affordable housing, there's for-profit housing. And I'd like to see some changes in future tranches of money that we have for HALF. So that we are looking at various opportunities where we can support projects throughout the city. Because no one's living just in one area, they're gravitating throughout the city. So, and I've had conversations actually with Lucy Rappaport, who's been excellent, and the HALF team, and Richard Mahi, in particular in BC. So just, it's all sort of comes under the same lens, you know, the same.
I understand your concern, but
Yeah. So,
just to be clear, the I can't remember the exact name of the bylaw, the development bylaw has a section about waiving fees, so what Councillor Santos is doing here is asking P and D to implement the clause that's already in the bylaw. Anyway, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Nobody's opposed. That is carried. Thank you. Councillor Sharma, you move
Yes, I do.
adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we are adjourned. Thank you.